Gettier cases, what are they? First, very basically, a Gettier case is an example of a person, someone, usually a rational, able adult, who has a justified true belief, but not knowledge. And these words are going to be really important. Justified true belief. So we'll come back to those. And this word is very important. We're going to start with that word right now. Ology, I'm sure you already know, is the study of something. Episteme comes from the Greek, sorry I didn't capitalize that, which means, episteme means something like knowledge, to have the truth in mind. So when you're learning about Gettier cases, you're probably in the unit in your philosophy class called epistemology. Epistemology is the study of knowledge. What is knowledge? The nature of knowledge. And Edmund Gettier came up with some examples of what knowledge is not. What Edmund Gettier is doing is coming up with a very specific scenario where somebody has a belief, something that they've concluded in some way, and what they've concluded is true, and what they've concluded is backed up by some kind of evidence or support, so it's justified, but there's no knowledge. And that's what a Gettier case is. A Gettier case is an example of someone who doesn't have knowledge, even though they have justified true belief. So what Edmund Gettier is famous for doing, on one hand, is for arguing that the standard account of knowledge is wrong. That's what Edmund Gettier says in that famous 1963 paper, that the standard account of knowledge as justified true belief, breaking down knowledge as a justified true belief, is wrong. So a Gettier case is just an example where you've proven that knowledge has to be something other than a justified true belief. Even though Edmund Gettier is the one who's famous for arguing that it's possible for someone to have a justified true belief without knowledge, there are cases that come long before and before Edmund Gettier that argue the exact same thing. Dharmatara is famous for lots of things, but one of his theories is in epistemology, which studies what knowledge is, and he gives an example about somebody who thinks that there's a fire because they think that they see smoke. And there really is a fire. And they're justified for thinking that there's a fire because they think they see smoke, and smoke indicates fire, but they don't actually see smoke. What they see is someone who's building a fire to cook some meat, and the meat has brought a swarm of flying insects, and the person who's looking from far away sees the swarming insects and thinks that it's smoke. So they have a belief that there's a fire. It's true that there's a fire. They're justified for their belief that there's a fire, but they don't know that there's a fire. Or so you're supposed to agree. Bertrand Russell gives the exact same thing, the structure. Example of someone with justified true belief but not knowledge. And Bertrand Russell's example is about a person who sees a broken clock. And the broken clock says 3 o'clock. And the person looks at this clock, not knowing that it's broken. And a broken clock tells you the correct time twice a day, assuming that you're on that AM/PM version. So there's a person who sees a clock that says 3 o'clock, and they form the belief that it's 3 o'clock, and it really is 3 o'clock, and they're justified in believing that it's 3 o'clock because they're looking at a clock that says 3 o'clock, but they don't have knowledge, or so you're supposed to think. And Edmund Gettier also gives those two cases that if you want to, you could pull up. I'm sure you can find this for free on the internet. There's two cases, and the main point is this. There's a guy who has a belief and their belief is true and their true belief is justified, but you don't want to say that that person gets the really important description of being a knower, someone with knowledge. So what are Gettier cases? They're cases in which someone doesn't have knowledge but does have a justified true belief. Why is Gettier famous? Because he's the one everyone took seriously when he gave examples that showed that knowledge is something other than a true belief. But he is not the first one and he is not the only one, because there are other examples of what's now called Gettier cases. So Edmund Gettier leaves us with this question: what is knowledge? And that is the focus of an epistemologist.